Well, here we are. It's a pretty a unique occasion, maybe, anywhere in the whole British Isles today, because we have people who are not socially distancing having a chat about what happened in lockdown. And that's the point of this programme today. So I think we'll get everyone to introduce themselves. Starting with you, Julie.
Okay, Julie Edge, I'm MHK representing the people of Onken. Obviously, it's a constituency that I've lived in the majority of my life. Proud to represent the people and working hard to make sure we deliver as much as possible for the public. Obviously, we've had 2 lockdowns, so it's been very interesting times, which probably not many politicians have experienced in previous. Well, they probably never have, anybody that I'm aware of. So,
and the bane of the Chief Minister sometimes, but we'll come to that one, shall we?
Yeah, definitely come back to that.
Okay, Andy.
Yes, Paul, I'm Andy Corrie. I'm the area manager for the Manx Co Op. I've been doing that job for about 12, almost 13 years now. I'm also a retained firefighter for the Laxey Fire Brigade. And during the sort of COVID situation, I've also been part of a group of food retailers where we've all worked together to try and make sure we keep the food supply going for the Isle of Man. So busy.
We'll talk about the toilet roll situation as it goes on. And Sam.
I'm Samantha Harvey, a business lady who owns 2 salons on the island. We built the salons over the last 2 years, and we just, that's all it is really. That's what we do.
But it's an essential service for so many people. I mean, I know, joking apart,
yeah.
I mean, people think nails and things is just cosmetically nice, but it's not necessarily the case, right?
No, not always. I mean, sometimes it's just that people just want to get out and socialise with people, and that's what we do. We chat, we enjoy everything that we do. We've got 5 staff members, 6 including myself, and my husband helps out as well. Oh. So we're a very family-run business. My 2 daughters work for me, but I don't really class them as staff, really.
Right, well, lockdown 2.0, a lot of people hate that terminology, but here we are. We are out of it. Maybe we start with the retail / the food industry. I mean, the first time round we were doing shoots with you at your depot, the toilet roll issue, the whole thing. Second time round, though, day one, there was a panic, wasn't it? I mean, there's certainly something was going on, and then it seemed to calm down. But over to you.
What's happened this time? It's played out very, very similarly to the first lockdown, but the time frame has been really compressed this time round. So if you recall, during the first lockdown, we had a few weeks really of panic buying when the virus was spreading, and we saw what was happening in the UK first. So there was quite a long lead into it. I think the difference with the first lockdown is we didn't know what was coming. We didn't know what was heading our way. We didn't know there was going to be a lockdown. Everything was brand spanking new. So what's happened this time is we only literally had 1 or 2 days notice of the lockdown. So the panic buying was within a day, in effect, a day and a half, and then we were straight into lockdown. And it's very much followed a very, very similar course to the first lockdown. So we had the initial phase of panic buying, albeit much shorter. Then we went into lockdown. At that point, the Great Manx public did an absolutely fantastic job of playing by the rules. They did stay at home. They did tend to shop alone. They wore masks. They did everything by the book. They queued when they had to. They were very, very well behaved, to be honest, and commend them.
There must be so many people who've got fridges and freezers absolutely rammed with stuff, right? I mean, people have hoarded from the first time, and you must have seen a dip almost in sales after the first initial panic almost. People... Yeah. Are living off all this stuff, or maybe they're not. Maybe they're keeping it in their freezers.
So what happened last time, and what's happened this time as well? Yes, there was that initial phase where the sales went very, very high. Then there was a couple of weeks where the sales absolutely dipped, where people basically have stocked up and they're following the instruction to stay home where possible. Then people gradually start coming back out to restock again. I think what's made it different this time is also the timing of it becoming in January. It's a long old period for a lot of people from their last payday in December to stretch through till the payday at the end of January, and it's naturally a time of year where people are short of money anyway. And then when they're in a situation where perhaps they're not able to work and waiting on benefit payments and that type of thing, it makes it a difficult time for people. So I think in terms of what we do in food retail, it's probably worth recognising that it's that not everyone is in a position to be able to go out and stock up and panic buy. And I was only reading a report yesterday about the massive increase in the demand for food bank this year, or certainly during January, as compared to the same period last year. So not everyone's in that position to actually be able to go out and fill their cupboards.
What about you guys and lockdown?
Well, it's quite funny actually, because the day that they were discussing the lockdown, we were already going shopping, and I don't do my shopping very often, so I had masses of amounts. And I got back home and heard the news. I thought, oh, thank goodness for that. But, it is like what Angie says, people are short of money, so people can't really stock that much. I've got 3 children. I've got to feed 2 teenagers and a little boy, and he eats me out of house and home. So I do stock up, and it wasn't necessarily panic buying, but luckily I did do my shop.
Don't you think people see a queue and they join it almost? And if someone's got toilet rolls galore in their basket, it almost makes you go out. And I felt that the first time around, particularly. I didn't buy any, but I kept thinking, maybe I should buy some because I don't need any, but everyone else is buying them up.
I think, really to touch on what Andy said latterly there with regards to, it's a difficult time for people and they don't have any spare cash in January. And I moved house in the middle of all this, so I had to sort of go to the property I was renovating. I've got a fridge, I haven't got freezers or anything, so I've actually experienced the shops more this lockdown than I had previously, and I thought they were actually very quiet in comparison.
Yeah.
And I think initially there was a lot of people out and about on the roads, and I thought, people aren't taking this seriously, but certainly from a shopping point of view, great, all masks and social distancing and doing the hands as they go in, but I'm sure, I don't know about wastage from the point of view from the supermarkets this time of year, but it was quiet, I felt, in comparison.
Well, let's talk about the whole thing then, the actual lockdown. Let's go back and just think about this again. Did it go wrong that we had to go into lockdown? Wasn't there basically a little failing there on not having this testing on the last day or whatever? What do you think? You were asking about this, weren't you?
Yeah, I personally think this 13-day testing should have been in a long time ago. I think we let our guard down a little bit. Thank goodness we've managed to get out of it in a 3-week period, and we've come out of it without not too many people ending up in hospital even. But we let our guard down. I'm very concerned still that they've opened up for compassionate reasons, and that I totally understand compassionate reasons, but my biggest concern is that an exemption does not have an end date on it, and I do feel that the great Manx people, as the Chief Minister says, we don't know actually how many people are coming into the island, how many people are staying, and what impact that's going to have on services in the future. And I think that's important, that we should have an end date on an exemption.
Take us through what happened in Timor, because there was a vote on this, wasn't there? And they didn't go with it to have this testing. Am I right?
For the 13-day test, yes, yeah.
Can you take us through what?
Well, it was. To be fair to Bill Shimmons from Middle, he's the one that's really been pushing for this a long time. And also Dr. Glover, she brought it up, Dr. Rachel Glover, and it was seen that it wasn't necessary at the time. And obviously they kept saying as well that first day testing wasn't, it would only give 7% of facts. How many of these recent ones have we picked up on first day testing? Although they are isolating anyway, and I think the policy of elimination is a good one, but they need to consider the impact on the economy and everything else, and we need to come up with solutions now going forward.
So this could have been avoided? That's what I'm trying to get to, you think?
I believe so on day 13. However, the cases that came about on New Year's Eve appeared to be after the 14 days. They were back out in the community. What sort of testings, what sort of checks are taking place?
We end up in 21 days or months, don't you, I suppose? I'm trying to be fair here, but
a lot of people, though, are saying, Paul, that they've come back to the island. There's a lot of people coming in, 700 people a week, and they're not getting checked. They don't get a check from day 1 to day 14. So I think that could be an area that perhaps has let us down as well.
I'm hearing this. In fact, people have been on to me to say no one's been round yet. No one's been round, and now that shouldn't happen, right? Everyone's going to be checked, are they?
Well, I would hope so, and certainly early on, during the last period when we'd come out of lockdown, a friend of mine, they went away, come back, and the phone call was onto a mobile phone. Well, they could have been anywhere. It doesn't mean to say they're at home. And, you know, we don't want to be the heavy police, but these are the safeguards we've got in place, and they need to be, you know, a good process in place to make sure it's happening.
We'll talk much more about the impact a bit, but I mean, directly with you, because you're a business that relies obviously on people coming and
we had to literally just close. 5 members of staff, they had to stay off. We had no income at all. I have managed to do the salary support scheme, which, to be honest, it's not enough, especially when, you know, they give us these grants, and then where do they go? It's not even. It doesn't even pay the rent. It doesn't. I've got 2 salons to work for. It's just so hard to actually get through it. And if these checks were done and everything, you know, was checked a long time ago, maybe we didn't have to lose all that money last month. Maybe we would have got away with it, because, like they said, they probably caught it off the person that was with them that had it a couple of weeks later. And, you know, we need to make sure that the checks are done, people are staying at home, because these youngsters are a nightmare. It's more the mid-age. I'm not saying the kids, I'm not saying anything about the students, because they've been absolutely amazing. They really have, and nobody gives them credit enough.
Have you changed any protocols in the businesses? Are you not wearing these visors or anything? Are you asking people to wash their hands, or just keep a record of who they are when
well, we have a record anyway, because we use an online booking system. So we have everybody's name, everybody's number. We know who hasn't turned up, who has turned up. When they come in, we have got hand sanitizer for them to use personally. And when they sit at the desks, we always spray them with hand sanitizer before we start work. And then if that customer touches their phones or anything else, we'll spray them again. All the surfaces are cleaned after every use with Dettol or Zaflora or something like that. So that's been in since the last lockdown. Last lockdown we had screens up as well, but this time we're just hoping that it's all going to be great, and customers will not turn up if they're ill. And we can just keep on sanitising and keeping it safe. I've not had any issues in the salons.
How's it with you with people complying with the old masks? I mean, it wasn't completely compulsory, but we were very compliant over here, were we not?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very interesting point, because that was one of the key differences during this lockdown to the previous lockdown, was the fact that the masks came into, or face coverings came into play, and obviously the last lockdown we were told that they weren't required. If I'm honest, I do feel that the government's stance on that was a bit fuzzy, and they should have been stronger with the message, because they didn't legislate for the mandatory wearing of face coverings, but then they pushed it onto the private sector to enforce the wearing. And actually, if the government aren't prepared to mandate something, then it feels a little bit off that they should expect the private sector to mandate that.
Months at the very beginning of this whole thing about, do we need masks? I mean, it's constantly no, we don't need masks.
And it should be a clear thing. You either need them or you don't. And I think the message that was being given out was that they were strongly advised. But in the grand scheme of things, what does that actually mean? Strongly advised means, well, we're telling you it'd be a good idea, but that means that people can choose not to if they so wish. So I think we got there basically because as food retailers, as essential retail in general, a lot of us are affiliated with UK groups of stores, and obviously mask wearing has been mandated in the UK, and the policies and procedures and protocols are there, they're in place. So certainly for the food retailers that are part of national chains, it was very easy to adopt a UK style approach. Mm-hmm. But there were some issues around the Equality Act, and I think that ties into.
boot anybody out or have any issues?
Well, certainly. I mean, I can only speak for the co-op who I work for, and we had a non-challenge policy. So obviously there isn't a way of proving an exemption to having to wear a mask. So ultimately, if a customer was to tell us that they were exempt from wearing a mask, there's no possible way for us to identify whether they are or they're not. So we had a non-challenge policy. So, but I would say that in the compliance was exceptional. It was amazing. I mean, I even I went out for a couple of long walks, and I was up on North Barrule one day, and there was someone wearing a mask up there. And I'm thinking the social distancing was like 2 miles. They were protecting the sheep from catching COVID.
I've said to people, if they said stand on one leg while you're waiting in the queue, I think most people would have done exactly that. You know, it was almost like we're very compliant, Julie.
Obviously, putting my post office hat on, and obviously, you know, we deal within the retail sector in some respects. Our policy is that we wanted to make sure and protect our staff. You know, we value our staff, and we need them there working. They've worked through both lockdowns, and it's been incredible actually what they've actually achieved. We quickly implemented what we'd had in place previously, social distancing in the sorting office and that, but the retail shops, which are privately owned businesses, it was down to the individuals as to how they wanted to implement their policy. So we implemented our policy of wearing a mask within our sorting office and any of our collection points. However, the retail businesses, they're their businesses. It's up to them to make that decision.
Was the government not more on message then? Are you saying fuzzy sort of thing? I mean, would you prefer it being absolutely mandatory then?
I think you can. I actually think it was okay, because I think most people did it the right way. Certainly there hasn't been many complaints. I have had a few from constituents that have gone into various post offices and said they're not wearing masks behind. However, they are all behind screens in most of the sub-postmaster, and you'll know from his own.
Is it a tough ask to have people wearing these masks all day long? Because I just go out, an hour's enough for me. It
is something that certainly colleagues working in the stores for 8-hour shifts, it's something that it's hard to wear a mask for that length of time. We certainly got issues where people were saying that it was irritating to their skin, etc. It was causing them to get breakouts. It was there's a bit around just getting quite hot and sweaty with it as well.
Did any of your staff say, I'm not going to do it though?
No, I mean, we made it exactly for the reasons that Julie spoke. We made it mandatory for our staff to wear masks, again, unless there was medical exemptions. We also provided every colleague with 6 reusable masks, so they could actually rotate them during the course of the day, so they didn't have to wear the same one. They could wash them between shifts as well. We also provided visors for people who perhaps couldn't wear a mask for medical reasons, but could wear a visor. So we covered all the bases. We had disposable masks as well for people who preferred them, and if there were customers who arrived and didn't have a face covering, we were able to provide them with one, or indeed sell them packs of masks.
Because the big difference this time was we were told this. Well, eventually we found out it was the UK variant, I think. I mean, even that's still, I asked that question so many times, and I couldn't believe, maybe you've got to think, how long it took them to find that answer out. And this is, again, quite annoying as I asked the question, because I think it was really important to know.
It was one the public wanted an answer to, and they wanted it early on. And
we weren't getting it. It was totally been saying it's not important. And I kept saying, surely the difference on meeting someone in the co-op.
Behaviours.
Because it was so going to be quicker to catch. And
I think it's very important to have known.
And they weren't telling us.
No.
And they didn't seem to make it that... Well, I'm probably a bit biased on this one.
Well, no, I think it took about 10 days for us to actually find that out. And it was, so there's been, because of Christmas holidays and that, the lab wasn't open. Well,
and all the time Rachel Glover was saying, I could do this for you. I think that's what she was saying.
She was, and I think the public were crying out for that. And I think certainly an awful lot of people have said people were out and about a lot more than they were previously in... cars, etc. We've had
lockdown wasn't there was definitely a dim feel, wasn't it, the whole thing?
Yeah, it was. And I think if people would have heard early on, it was the UK strain from sort of possibility from New Year's Eve. They did say that. But
and your people and you're closed as such, but there's that risk, and I was trying to get over, was how long is that risk? Is it just literally seconds, handing over your card to be touched on the screen, anything, or is it still this 50 minutes is all we want to know about for contact tracing.
There was an article at the weekend about that, and they're still not sure as to how long it's staying. You know, because previously it was 72 hours, wasn't it? I think, and now they're not sure. So, and they're getting new information all the time, and it is fast moving. But I do think that would have made such a difference if we could have had a non-island decision on. It is the new case strain, and masks are compulsory. Could have come in at that point, perhaps. You know.
I think the thing for me with the face coverings, there were some complaints because different retailers took different stances, and dare I say it, a couple were perhaps a little bit heavier-handed than the co-op were, and there were complaints that went into the
heavy-handed. What, refusing entry?
Refusing entry and asking people to provide proof, etc. And there were some complaints went in, and I'd had some clarity from the Cabinet Office around how it worked with the Equality Act, and I got that clarification unofficially 2 weeks before it actually was released to the industry, and I think had that been released much sooner at the very beginning, then there would have been a greater deal of clarity in how to actually manage the enforcement of mask and face covering wearing, etc.
Okay, well, we've done over 20 minutes, well, up to 20 minutes now, so we'll do a part 2 if you're okay for time, because this is really interesting, and I hope everyone's enjoying this at home, so part 2 coming up.